the cell, the tissues, and body cavities is our lesson 2. And at the end of this lesson, you should be able to describe what a cell is and what its functions are. You should be able to discuss different types of tissues as well as outline the various body cavities. So this is just an overview of what we already know or what we did last time. The cells are the basic unit that then become specialized so that they can form tissues, and tissues will perform a specific function, and then different tissues that are working together for a specific function become organs, and then different organs that work together to achieve a specific function become organ systems, and gives us the overall organism where different organ systems are working together to sustain life. So the cells, we look at their structure and function, and of course cells are often called the microscopic building blocks of living organisms because we normally have to observe them under the microscope. Of course, they are active, dynamic, they continually grow through cell division and then specialize into different functions. And then at some point, they get to die, what we call apoptosis, and they can also replenish themselves by the millions every second. So cells are extremely dynamic and active, and at least for the part of being healthy, they grow in a controlled manner, and when they grow uncontrollably, that's when it results into malignancy and cancers. Our whole body will contain about 37.2 trillion cells. That's quite a lot, and these cells will be around 226 different kinds, as we shall be seeing in different types of cells. There's what we call a cell theory or the cell theory, and this has to do with the discovery of cells and their characteristics that was done or can be accredited to Theodor Schwann, Matthias, as well as Rudolph. So they proposed that there is a classical cell hypothesis that is in 3 parts. And the first part is that all organisms are made up of cells, and it can be one cell, that is single-celled organisms like prokaryotes, or it can be more cells or multiple cells or multicellular, or what we call eukaryotic cells. We also have another theory that cells are the basic units of life. Yes, in terms of structure and function, they determine the structure and function and eventually the functioning of the human or any other animal or organism. Then this guy called Rudolph declared what we call omnicellular acellular, claiming that cells come from pre-existing cells. And this is true because for us to have another cell, it must have come from another one through methods such as binary fission, which is an asexual form of reproduction, as well as cell division. So these 3 men were able to at least form the basis as to how now we are able to study cells. So cell size compared to what we call atoms. Remember we talked about atoms and molecules last time that are now the components that build up cells. So the atoms are the smallest, about 0.1 nanometers. And then we have amino acids that are about 1 nanometer. We have proteins that are about 10 nanometers. And then viruses are also pretty small. They range between 10 to 100 nanometers. And now we have an organelle called chloroplast being about 1 micrometer or micron. And then we have the most bacteria, okay, ranging between 1 to 10 micrometer. And then we have now plant and animal cells ranging between 10 to 100 micrometers. And we can see that the range of nanometers is like 1 billionth of a meter. That is below the virus from atoms to viruses. And then now the micrometers, which is equals to 1 micron, is a millionth of a meter. And this up to about the human egg, usually we'll need an electron microscope for us to be able to see them clearly. But from the chloroplast to the most bacteria until the human egg, we can also be able to visualize them with a light microscope. Of course, now millimeters, we have the frog egg, we have ants and mouse, and then a human who is about 1 meter or two, slightly less than two. And of course, one of the biggest mammals, which is a whale, which can range from 10 meters to about 1 kilometer. So typically, cells will range between 55 to 50 micrometers in diameter. So cells are very pretty small, but eventually they determine the structure and function of an organism. We have already mentioned these two types of cells: prokaryotic, such as a bacteria, which is a single-celled organism, and then we have eukaryotic, where we have plant and animal cells. Now, there's something we call cell specialization, that cells in a multicellular organism become specialized by turning different genes on and off inside what we call stem cells. Stem cells are undifferentiated cells. So for specialization to occur, we have genes either being turned on and off, and this causes differentiation such that an undifferentiated cell can become a brain cell, it can become an immune cell, can become a muscle fiber cell, and can also result to other multiple stem cells that will be useful in regeneration, especially after things like disease. And one of them is the red blood cells. Usually they don't have a nucleus or any organelles within them, but they have hemoglobin, which is oxygen carrying protein. And then we have what we call epithelial cells, and these are cells that will be found on the skin or the line organs such as the lungs and reproductive tracts, and they form some sort of barrier, and they are very important in lining cavities, as we shall be seeing, and also other surfaces of the body. Then we have adipose or fat cells that are highly adapted for storing fat, and the bulk of the interior is taken up by a large droplet of semi-liquid fat, which once you gain weight, it continues to bubble up and store more fat. Nerve cells are in the nervous system, and these are electrically excitable cells that transmit electrical signals down to extended stems called the axon. Okay, and they are found, of course, throughout the body because they are responsible for sensation, the feeling of pressure, pain, heat, etc. We have photoreceptor cells located in our eyes, and they are of two types, that's the cone and the rod, and these are light sensitive, so they help us to generate electrical signals once they are struck by light, and therefore control vision. And then we have smooth muscle cells. One of the types of muscle cell, which is the smooth muscle cell, is spindle shaped, and it is found in arteries and digestive tract to cause or produce contractions such as peristalsis that helps us in swallowing food. We have the ovum or the egg, the largest of the cells in the female human body. And the eggs, of course, are used for reproduction, as well as the sperm cells that are specialized. And now these are from the male reproductive organ, and they are now important for the reproduction or the formation of a zygote, and of course, eventually the formation of an embryo. We have what we call exocrine and endocrine glands or cells. These exocrine usually will secrete products through ducts, such as mucus, sweat, or even digestive enzymes. And these enzymes are going to go now to the target organ. For example, we have bile. that usually will be from the gallbladder and is carried directly into the duodenum via the bile duct to facilitate lipid digestion. Then we have endocrine. These are really similar to exocrine, but instead of releasing through ducts, the products through ducts, they do it directly into the bloodstream. And once they have done that, the product, for example, the hormone, will now travel through the bloodstream and will be received by receptors on the particular organ in which it is supposed to act on. For example, if you have the hormone estrogen, it will act on estrogen receptors that are found on the uterus and the breasts of female, of the female.